Welcome back to Career Conversations with Peter Ruppert, the author of Limitless and the CEO at Fusion Education Group. Today, Pete and I are going to talk about finding a champion and finding mentors that are willing and able to give back to you. You also mentioned this conversation you had with a mentor, and I know you have a section in your book called about finding a champion. So is this what you're thinking of? Finding somebody who believes in you, who challenges you and makes you think bigger than your own world or experience would allow you to think at that time?
Absolutely. Well, I think one of the mistakes I made when I was in my 20s, especially in my 20s and maybe in my early 30s, is I felt like, oh gosh, look, I went to a good school. Worked at Procter and Gamble. I went to Harvard. I got all the answers, and I already knew the way to get there. And boy, as as Mike Tyson says, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. And
Right.
I got punched in the face a few times. I said, "Oh, I better start learning from other people." And that idea of finding mentors out there, and what I've learned is successful people are almost always willing and able and ready to give back. So reaching out and sending them an email or calling them or sending them a personal handwritten letter, those are great ways to get introduced to people who would be more than willing to help you. And then also peer groups. I mean, the peer group that you and I have been part of at YPO, um, and our interaction together, you and I as friends, I mean, I consider you a huge champion for me and other folks in our forum group that have been so great in helping us guide and support each other along the way.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful, and I'm glad you mentioned YPO, our chapter here in West Michigan. That was the first step for me when I first became president in 2002, was to get out of my own little world and get around people that I always want to be around people that are running companies or organizations larger than ours, right? Because you can start to see the future. Of course, I use the term R&D a lot, rip off and duplicate, and so you can see some best practices and how people are using those and bring that in. So that was always healthy. I remember whenever I go to a YPO event or one of our forum meetings, I invariably come back with 2 to 3 pages of notes, questions, ideas. My team kind of knows it. They know when I come back with something, I'm going to have a list like, okay, here's some thoughts running through my head. And some have turned out to be great things that we've done here. Some are throwaways, they don't quite fit or the timing's not right. But just exposing yourself to that group. And I've now, in addition to YPO, I've joined, as you know, a group called Growth 50. And most of these companies are $1 billion plus companies, right? And so this is one when we spoke the B word, and then this opportunity came out. I'm like, this is perfect. I got to get around organizations that are already operating where I want to go. So I see how they're structured and how they do certain things, and I can bring those back to where we are now. So I think finding those champions, those individuals or organizations or groups are so powerful. And I think with Zoom now, I think one of the benefits of COVID, which we're still going through, is you can meet with people around the country and you can meet face to face. You don't have to fly and spend the time and the money to go see them. You can do it like this. And I think the last thing I would encourage people, because I know when people reach out to me for connection and to talk through things, I will always make time for somebody where if we have a talk or make suggestions, I see that they're taking action on them. Not that they're doing everything I say, it's not about that, but like I see movement. And otherwise, if I'll have a couple conversations, but if I don't see much movement or there's always things that got in the way or didn't have time, then I'll politely kind of distance myself from having those. And I think so that's my encouragement to people who are going to reach out. Like, if you're going to take someone's time, then take some action and make some movement and do something with it. And I think people will be willing to spend time with you. But if you don't, what I found is successful people, their time is they're very focused on their time, and they'll only engage in high return activities, and they're very generous. But I think you got to show that you're into it and taking some action along the way. You obviously did and followed the plan very well.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. And the other thing is for younger folks who may not have access to YPO or Growth 50 or things like that, is sometimes it's just other friends and peers and colleagues. And I've seen a lot of up and comers will partner with a couple buddies and they'll have monthly accountability breakfast and they share their dreams. And these are usually new friends that also have similar dreams for their own lives and their own careers, et cetera. Having those kind of things, whether it's formal or informal, but those people who not just support you, but hold you accountable. And that's what a champion really does. It's both of those things.
By the way, this works, I found, in business. It can work for physical activity goals, finding your group, your community that does things that are very active. Like we have a great friend group, and it's sometimes you start to share some of the things you're doing, and you go like, man, I thought I was doing pretty good. Now look at what they're doing. It just challenges you and raises you up. Same with families. I love to meet with what I would deem successful dads, right? Families that I admire, and see how they've done some things, or have been where we're going. I used to do this as our kids were, I still do it as our kids are growing up in different stages. I go meet with people whose kids have already gone through those stages, because I want to hear what it's like and I want to prepare to be ready for that. So whether it's business, physical activity, family, hobbies, whatever it is, this applies across the board.
No doubt. 100%, 100% agree.